it's just going to make the game, I think, feel a lot more like it's tying all the pieces together.
Some risks and you might die and not make it out alive.
Melee combat does ship to 3.8.
Caterpillar mission is really cool.
What you've just seen are scenes from every single patch trailer ever released for Star Citizen. Save for 3.17, called Refueling Fortunes, combat has been a part of every advertisement. Now, combat's easy to sell. It's flashy and it makes for exciting content. But I don't think I'm the only one that feels it's getting a bit old. Why do we always end up returning to combat, even during a supposedly cargo-focused event? And when might things change? Now, obviously this event is not solely combat focused, but it is a community-wide event sending a message from Star Citizen during a cargo-focused update in the age of industrial gameplay. So let's talk about the possible changing focus of Star Citizen from so much combat to maybe more of the content players have been waiting for. Thank you for coming to my Tomato Talk. For as long as I can remember, the primary gameplay in Star Citizen has been ship combat. 3.0 ushered in the game we are currently playing, and it mainly focused on combat missions, an investigation mission, and Kovalic shipping hub, which is still around, and some box delivery missions. Tessa Bannister, a favorite mission giver of years prior, was gone, along with her research missions.
That's you. Complete. Just when you start to forget that space can be pretty terrible, you hear something like this. Help! I need help! Please! Anybody hurry! I'm sending you their location.
You can see the early 3.x cycle of updates focused a lot on trying to improve that combat gameplay. Those who were around back then probably have plenty to say about that. And looking at the 3.0 feature trailer, there is plenty of combat featured here too. A small amount of racing and arena commander, but looking at the patch notes for the update, what else was there? By Alpha 3.2, mining was introduced, but this was fairly bare. And it did provide more diversity for players, along with FPS mining added in 3.7, the multi-crew mining platform known as the Mole in 3.8, and the Rock mining vehicle in 3.10. But it wasn't until 3.12 that things started to actually pick up industrially, with new components and interfaces slowly trickling in to make the profession more interesting. And even then, many miners will tell you the diversity and actual meaning of the profession still suffers to this day. So let's put aside mining. Racing saw the attempted scramble races added in 3.3, but those quickly proved to not be worth it and were completely removed from the game. Box delivery missions continued on getting some expansions here and there, as well as slightly different types of missions and reputation progression in 3.13, but this was no cargo hauling. It wasn't what players were looking for, and it really didn't scale to provide the interesting experience players are now seeking in the upcoming 3.24 update. Commodity trading and cargo hauling, which were not linked to any missions, progression, or reputation, was also in a poor state due to the lack of diverse economy and an all-around bad experience due to the splintered nature of the servers in Star Citizen. Salvage as a profession wasn't even added into the game until 3.18 just last year. During this period of 3.x updates, we also saw many new weapons added, new combat improvements in turrets, AI flight patterns, and new tools. The bounty hunting profession was expanded, it got reputation progression. The 890 jump hijacking mission, solely focused on combat, became a crowd favorite. Ghost Hollow became one of the first true dynamic missions focused on combat, along with Korea's security post being very security focused. The bunkers that were added with Hurston in 3.3 were literally made as an FPS test case.
Now the problem was we made these originally for the CitizenCon presentation demo. Now it kind of fits the current purpose. It's fairly small in scale. It gives a multi-room layout opportunity for FPS combat.
And those remain the most common places for missions for years. And none of this occurred in a vacuum. It was very clear where most of the resources were going. And they primarily revolved around, guess what? Squadron 42. The military campaign that acts as the single-player counterpart to Star Citizen continued to be the driving force for development, from the very first patch, all the way up through many of the patch trailers. Dialing in ship combat across dogfighters, turrets, and multi-crew ships was very important, and it showed. Its gameplay, it already existed, as poor as it might have been. It didn't require damage maps for salvaging or data systems for exploration. No crafting systems, inventory interaction, or medical systems were really needed, and it wouldn't be until just the last few years that things like these started to even be mentioned. All this to say, CIG has been obsessed with combat and development and marketing because it's easy and it's already there. You can see this in the promo pictures of spaceships. Ships meant for cargo hauling and other industrial professions will feature combat-focused advertisements. Even, and this is a good one, the luxury passenger transport-focused shuttle, the Crusader E1, has a promo shot of it firing its guns. Yes, we live in a dangerous verse. There's a lot of piracy and things going on in the verse you need to protect yourself from, but that doesn't mean everything needs to center on that. We saw this with the Medical Ursa ad just this year in marketing. Instead of highlighting the different interesting ways a citizen could get into trouble in a world with industrial-level lasers mere meters away from fleshy human meat bags, it's all shooting, all combat, all go, go, go. And for quite some time, it seemed like they were starting to shift more towards an industrial focus, at least in the gameplay. And they have. Look at the last couple of years. Mining improvements, resource distribution, economy adjustments, salvage gameplay, cargo refactoring. There's definitely been more focus on the more popular forms of gameplay. Something you all answered on my recent poll emphatically, and what you're interested in. But they still haven't dove all the way in. So why then? Why is the 3.24 cargo-focused update so heavily reliant on combat? Let's talk about where this game could make some improvements for the less combat-focused players. So in Star Citizen 3.24, the cargo refactor that officially started back in 3.18 in 2023, but more appropriately began with the inventories back in 3.15, is coming to somewhat of an end. The changes of cargo and inventory don't stop here, but this is the big one. Local inventories are done away with, cargo boxes are on a unified system, and specific locations are receiving the infrastructure that is supposed to make them make sense in the wider economy. Freight elevators, cargo loading surfaces, and at some point, security. This is a monumental change to the game. Most won't feel it too much, but you will feel it. In small items being moved, looted items being sold, mining materials being refined in, large haul voyages being better defined. Across the board, the game is getting an update with this system, but the event that is meant to highlight that still focuses a ton on the combat prowess and strategy of a group. Players will need to track down pirate ships, disable those ships, steal cargo off those ships, and then fight a blockade at a space station before landing at the station to submit those goods to assist this station in getting resupplied. I'm sorry, but the majority of this mission is still about how you fight those pirates, either to steal the cargo or to return it. There's not as much focus from what I've seen on the logistics of the actual cargo retrieved, where it's sourced from, or where it's going. This event does still rely on the combined effort of multiple parties to fill a threshold of cargo retrieved, but I feel like they could have further extrapolated on that part of the event and gone deeper with cargo retrieval rather than focusing on the fighting required to obtain said cargo. This is a mechanic we've already seen in Xenothreat, so they could have gone further with it here. This blockade event does actually allow for players to choose which side they want to fight on too. So while it is an asymmetric cargo event, it does allow players to fight on both sides, and I feel this could miss the message CIG may want to send with what is truly the focus here. Now don't get me wrong, I do think this is a good event, and it's sure to be a ton of fun for large groups, but I'm not sure how inviting this will be for the random player who does want to link up with everybody else to play when our in-game comms and party mechanics still aren't quite that up to standard. Now I can't wait to see how players strategize to get the most cargo back to the station without blowing it up, but it's about time we started to see a shift in the focus to the rest of the game, and 324 does seem like a great time to do that. We know this event has been in the works for over a year, so maybe the plans were a bit different back then, but I can't help but feel like CIG is a bit scared to push an event forward that isn't exciting and geared towards capturing as many people as possible. An event that requires players to gather different types of cargo from stockpiles and distribution centers around the system and consolidate them all at the Terra jump point for a major commercial boom that sees a constant resupply of the location could work. Not only would there still be a risk of danger, as there's always going to be a risk of danger in combat in Star Citizen, but this could play with the cost of materials needed to be purchased, the difficulty of getting them from certain locations, some reward for players' knowledge of who sells what, and still an active role in loading and unloading ships. Maybe they could have even cheesed a way for players to still be able to mine resources and use those in this event as well. Yes, what I'm proposing isn't as exciting, but it's focused and it makes the cargo portion of the game the sole priority of the players, giving the devs a lot more feedback to work with. I'm sure that my idea has plenty of holes in it, but I hope that the point is clear. There is so much more to Star Citizen than just combat. And players throughout the years, either consciously or subconsciously, have been receiving messaging from CIG that tells them this game is very combat oriented. Yes, it's a dangerous game, again, but a lot of players are a little uneasy about what else they're going to be able to do if everything seems to go back towards combat. Livestock is coming into the game. The economy is supposedly defining new locations and trade lanes. The map system should soon allow us to save and share waypoints and markers. Engineering is meant to make ships, space stations, and outposts more interactive. And of course, mining and salvage still have a long way to go. Sooner than later, players are going to be clamoring for more balanced experiences, and I think there's no better place to start than with cargo hauling in 3.24, especially with Pyro on the horizon, a star system that many are convinced is all about pirating and fighting. Now, we of course have plenty of non-combat focused things to do in the game, but I think this global event was a missed opportunity to communicate where the game is headed outside of just Stanton or Pyro. And ultimately, I nor anybody else will know just how good it does at being the cargo-focused mission it's claiming to be until we get to play it. So we'll have to wait a little while longer to see whether it's good or not. Thank you for watching this video. While I've primarily grown up as a FPS and RPG fan, I'm very much in this game for the wide range of options it offers, and I've been more and more anxious over the years to see the game diversify. As I said with the poll I put out on my channel, it looks like a lot of you guys are looking for different gameplay too. Hopefully with Squadron 42 wrapping up, we can start to see that happen a little faster. Things like data running, farming, engineering, refining, refueling, base building, and crafting are things that I'm sure they want to market and tell people they can do, but the gameplay hasn't existed. And ultimately, that's why I think now it's a great time to start being able to rely on cargo hauling, mining, and salvaging, since that is in the game. Either way, if you want to see more opinion, news, and development deep dives into Star Citizen, consider subscribing here and joining me for my weekly live streams and my podcast over on my second channel, Space Tomato 2. I hope you learned something new in this video, and I'll catch you in the next.